Well, very excited about being at Colorado State again. A few years ago when I was here before, so always loved this state, loved this community. Actually thought about coming back here someday when I stopped coaching, so this was a treat to have the opportunity to come back and actually continue doing what I've been doing for a long time.
Was there a little bit of shell shock when you got here? Obviously the town, the school, the programs changed quite a bit.
Yeah, we've always kept an eye on it. We have friends here, numbers of friends, and we've visited a couple times over the years. So knew things were happening, and of course the stadium, I never really saw the stadium, but the visual I had of the old stadium and the stadium on campus was like, that's got to be like way cool. And everybody who's seen it would say the same thing. It was outstanding. With whoever put that together did a great job. I mean, it's not an easy task to build a stadium right here like this. So it was a great kudos to whoever put that together, because they really did a first-class job. You know what I mean? To keep looking for even the little things. I mean, the little things are here as well, which is great. But it's not easy, and appreciate it if you're a football coach to have this kind of facility. Tremendous.
Chuck, you've obviously coached a lot of places, coached a lot of different defenses, different schemes. Do you already have a desire of how you think you're going to run the defense?
Well, we're kind of grinding through.
4-4-3,
Yeah.
3-5, Rocky Long.
Hey, good stuff.
Anything like that?
Well, we're grinding through it. I mean, I've got a lot of thoughts. You have success in some situations, so use that as a reference point. My last time really coordinating was the last game I coached was against Colorado State in the bowl game, in Mexico Bowl. And then I went to Maryland as a safety coach. And then last year I was off the field at Florida as an analyst. And so coordinating last time was 2017. So we had a good team, a good defense that year, a lot of success. But use that as a reference point. But we got a lot of good coaches. I mean, we've been in meetings for 2 days just kind of grinding through the work, the meat and potatoes, and very impressed by just the conversations, the experienced guys have had, the interactions to try to get things right. And I was very impressed with the last couple of days. So I'm kind of a facilitator. I kind of like to listen, interact, ask questions, always keeping in mind that you're coaching guys and they're the ones that have to do it. It doesn't really matter what you know, it's what a player knows, more importantly, what a player can actually do. We've all got great ideas. We've all walked off the field a lot of Saturdays thinking we had all the answers, and your players don't play very well, you don't have any answers. So always mindful of that, but collecting those ideas and personnel, I don't really know the personnel. You're not trying to fit around peg in a square hole. We're looking for certain positions. We don't know if those guys exist, so that's going to affect and impact the actual scheme of what we do. But schemes aren't that different. I mean, either, as you say, they're 4 down, 3 down. You're either closed middle, open middle, and whatever expands from that. But we are looking for a couple guys to fit a couple spots that we think are kind of specific tasks that a player needs to be able to perform to play that position well. So we're looking for those guys, probably from within our team, most likely, that are here right now.
You've obviously worked a lot of places, been on a lot of different staffs. How important, or do you feel like with this staff, given that a lot of these guys have worked together in the past, do you think that's really an advantage for you guys, being able to kind of hit the ground running?
Well, certainly. Have we announced the whole defensive staff now? Yep.
Everybody
Outside linebackers.
Okay. Well, 2 of the guys I've worked with, a lot, and that's why they're here. Coach gave me the opportunity to have some say in the staffing of the defense. Not all of it, but the other guys are phenomenal. Anthony is a great guy. Anthony Perkins, tremendous. So that is helpful for me, just to reference certain things and even the material itself. The one guy was able to actually bring the material that we had, and so we're able to work off that material. So they use a thing called hard drives now. They don't use the big playbooks anymore. I'm still looking at playbooks, boxing playbooks, but they put it in a little drive. The world we live in. But that's all really helpful. And this language, we're just trying to get on the same language. We all speak foreign languages. You go into a room and, one thing is blood, the other thing is stack. I mean, it's the same thing, but what language we're going to use. So now it's all about trying to get the language right, because you're teaching players, you're coaching players, but you're teaching players. The language has to be the same. And it just takes work, And so fortunately, we've had a couple days here to do it. We'll have the rest of today after we meet with Coach this afternoon, and recruiting tomorrow, and then we're going recruiting next week. But Monday we're here, so we'll have another full day of going through football. But it's work intensive, at this point in that regard. But at some point, we'll get it on the same page.
Would you touch on it a little bit, just going out and hitting the state hard tomorrow? How imperative is it for a new staff to make those relationships and connections inside your borders right off?
Yeah, well, yes. So, it's all about relationships, trust. But, coaches, and I think one of the schools, I think I recognized the guy's name. I said, okay, that means he's been there a few years, so I think I'll see him tomorrow. But, yeah, it's all about relationships and trust and, evaluation. Always the problem in state, any in-state is you don't spend enough time recruiting our in-state players, the whole process. That's always a fair conversation to have. It's hard, but I think Colorado kids, they're like any place. If it means a little bit more to them, they'll probably come closer to reaching their ceiling, I would think, just in general. And so you're always going to kind of spend the time to do the evaluation. Recruiting is a lot of things. The most overlooked aspect of recruiting is the evaluation. People get stars or don't get stars, but, you listen to a Super Bowl game that's coming up in a few weeks. There'll be guys coming from schools, you're going to go, how in the world did that guy come from that school? How'd that happen? There's got to be a story. And so the evaluation, that's kind of what's cool right now. The big guys have been through the first round. We signed some guys as well. There's a lot of football players out there. A lot of guys that are going to be good players if you do a good job evaluating, if you can get the right people, give them the right information. So it's good. It's actually very good. How they structure now is really good for a Colorado State. If we do a good job working and evaluating, there's players out there, a lot of football players out there. Not as many in the state. Because of population base, you got to go out, and that's always a challenge. Whether if you're at a Colorado State, but they're out there.
You recruited within the borders before, outside of Colorado. There are hot spots around the area that you think
Outside the state of Colorado, yeah, always California, always Texas, and there was obviously a southeast flavor because of Coach Bobo and his guys. And again, why were they back there? Because they had relationships with people, And so right now we're a little bit stretched more than I'm sure Joe would like us to be, but it's just the reality of, we come in, we're trying to hit California, Texas, and there's still, guys on the board, and you're just trying to get to the closing date here. Guys on the board from Georgia, Florida, great places, got guys all their places because of before, and then we add a couple guys to the mix. So we're much more spread out right now than we want to be, and I'm sure the people watching the important things like budgets would feel the same way. We're trying hard. It's a constant thought and mind about what is the recruiting areas. But there's population bases. Texas, California, none better than that. Florida, Georgia. Those are four of the best states in the country in terms of quality of players. So the tough place, you go someplace where you got to drive 4 hours to find maybe a player. Those places you're driving by 100 high schools in 4 hours. So. That's why you're there, and again, the evaluation is the key piece, and then bringing the right kid here. It's a big deal. You bring a kid all the way across a long distance, and the adjustment, the culture. You have an obligation, to bring the right kind of student athlete, to any school, but certainly Colorado State now. So that's the challenge of working now all through. But we're mindful of it. We've all been around long enough to know the right things to do, the right type of decision making. But you got to win football games, and that comes with good football players. But it comes with good evaluation and good development, and that's what Steve's been. Our backgrounds together involve great evaluation, but involve development, player development, on all levels, off and on the field. So that's why certain schools, you look at them and you say, why are they any? They're pretty good. They're exceeding expectations because they're taking the right guys in their program. They're developing them, and Steve's program is all about player development on every level. So that gives you a chance to get guys closer to their ceiling, whatever their talent level is, and to where they can get to ultimately win football games, which is what you have to do in this business.
Chuck, you can have some guys on this team that you're going to be their third defensive coordinator in 4 years. How does that change the way you approach anything and installing things? Do you go a little simpler? Do you do different things? Do you maybe try to stick closer to what they did last year just for this first year as you transition?
We're going to be mindful of doing what's best for these players. Been really impressed by these guys. We went out and saw a bunch of these guys, the guys that were kind of the key guys for us. And I was greatly impressed by their families, the kids, the mindset. It was really well. It was well done to the former staff. looking at defensive guys, some of the guys are here, the guys that play, they're the kind of guys that make plays. It was a job well done. I mean, good kids, good families, and we think that good players. So whatever's best for them, simpler. I'm a simpler, cleaner guy. I mean, it's what we're grinding through right now. I mean, if it's not clean, it's not clear teaching, clear, concise type teaching, because the concept's a little muddy, we're not going to do it, So that's the concept. I've learned that over the years, so by some really great coaches. I've been around really great defensive coaches most of my career, so I got that part. So we're trying to put this thing together, but at the end of the day, we're going to get them lined up, and hopefully they can play really fast when the ball gets snapped, and they're not thinking and processing. I've never been that kind of guy. And if they have talent enough, then they should be able to play talent. Confused players slow down. Players that aren't sure about what you're asking to do, they might be 4'5", they look like they're 4'8", because they aren't playing fast with any level of anticipation. And you like to get to the point where on defense you're teaching offense. You're so confident in what you're doing conceptually that offensively you're teaching them. Now you understand now this is the weakness of this concept. If they do this and this, that's a problem. But if they do this, we should nail it down. And so you're coaching offense. So hopefully we can get a system by which we're not worried about getting lined up. We're not worried about making all these checks that people make, and I understand that and respect that. But we're going to try to get them to play fast, and you do that by knowing what you're doing, teaching clear concepts, and getting them to play fast and hopefully execute at a very high level. See, football defensively is about this. Every defensive concept, coverage-wise or front-wise, has a weakness. They can run a certain play that they have the advantage. It's tilted to their side. If they do everything right, you do everything right, it's probably going to gain yards. You're going to tackle it and play the next down. But there's things you do on defense that are really good. Like the play, 9 times out of 10, maybe 10 times out of 10, if they run that concept, you should win that situation. Failure on defense happens because they call some good plays against things you're not quite as good at. And the things you should be executing at a high level, you execute at an average level. You lose. Why does that happen? Because guys maybe can't make plays, guys are confused about what they're doing. So you got to get so good about what you're doing and have enough defense, how much defense you're going to run, enough defense that when they do X, it's a problem, but you better have Y ready to go. You know what I'm saying? Because they're going to go back to X, but we got Y now. And that's how I call the game. That's how I think, and process and in the course of a game play calling and otherwise. So there's a lot of verbiage there, but that's how I kind of approach it. Well, these guys here, we're going to do what's best for them because I think they're good guys.
What do you right off the bat with players to start kind of establishing respect, creating good relationships? You've obviously done this a couple times.
Yeah, a few times. Yeah, relationships are important for sure, and we're going to start beginning around them because they come back to school this week, so we'll be around them this week. We actually have some time with them in physical training and so forth. So that'll start, in about a week or so, 2 weeks, week or so. So yeah, you got to get to know them a little bit, because we're still trying to evaluate the skill sets a little bit. Do we have a guy that can do this? Well, if we don't, we better do something else. So that's a big thing for us to watch these kids and watch them run around. You watch tape, that's all good, but to watch your skill sets and put them through things that you can actually make the evaluation that, I think we'll have a chance here to see if that guy can do that. Maybe he can, maybe he can't, but at least you got to approach it with some level of information. So yeah, it's all about that. These kids are hungry. The best thing we have is if you're a competitive guy, and these kids are the ones I've met with, then it gives you an edge, gives you a chip. You got something to prove. Not happy about, the way things have gone the last couple of years for whatever reason that it went that way. It's the best place to be. Guys who have enough talent, you think, we hope it's true, a coaching staff that can get the most out of them, and a bunch of guys who are hungry. So I think our guys are that way, but we'll see.
I'm sure, obviously, like you mentioned, watch tape on all these guys for the past couple of years, but how much do you need the on-field evaluation of them to really learn how they can fit, what you can do, and just what they can
No,
do?
absolutely. That's what, off-season time is for, and it's ultimately spring football, and you're tweaking and adjusting as you get more information. A lot of your assumptions are wrong. You make assumptions. Your decision making is based off your assumptions. You assume something, and then you make your decisions off the assumption. If your assumption's wrong, then you're on the wrong path. And so there's going to be some of that, where we're assuming this guy can do this. You make some preconceived notion about what he can or cannot do, and there'll be some failure in that regard. But if you're open, to it, then you just keep adjusting, fixing it, because you got to get it right by game one. Who we play? Oh, CU, that game one. You got to get it right by then. We got time to do the process, but we got to do a great job. You got to scratch at it. You can't. You got to create all your practice. You fail in practice so you can succeed on Saturday. There's got to be enough failure in practice because you're putting guys in a lot of stress situations. You're running those plays that are pretty good plays against what you're doing. So you're failing, but then you're showing them that, okay, but we're over here, we're going to do this. So you're building towards a way of minimizing your mistakes and your failure by the time you get the game down. But that's a result of a lot of failure. How do you create failure in your scripts and your practice, and corrections, and you're just trying to. I tell my guy, it's a big wad. He's got a big barrel of crap. It's a big barrel of crap, and it's all in there. And every day we're hoping that we can erase that piece, get rid of that one, and hopefully we don't have to come back to that one. You learned that one. We taught you. We corrected that one. But we got another one, So you're just trying to get that thing reduced down. By the time you get to the game, that you're really clean, and confident, and you're executing it. When I played football, I could walk off a field on a Saturday, and I knew the one or two mistakes I made in a whole football game. That was a long time ago, but I remember processing it that way. My coaches had me so ready that it wasn't like, well, what happened? I don't know. I knew my stuff well enough. The coaches done a good enough job teaching me that I could tell, no, I didn't quite get the proper leverage on that guy, and that was my mistake. So I get it down to that kind of thing where then you're operating. It's all about execution. You got to execute. All these great concepts and people who are gurus, which is all good. But at the end of the day, it's one year you're a guru, next year you're out of job. So it happens in this business, right? So some guys tagged the group because he had a lot of good players, probably because they had a really good player or players, and then next year those guys leave, and then suddenly you can't do the same things. I mean, there's been the best in this business who have had a tough time accepting that when suddenly it wasn't looking the same. It wasn't looking the same because the guys doing it were different. So you got to always be the player is the most important thing. Coaches have a really important role. At the end of the day, it's about players. And so when you have success, it's about the players. When you have failure, it's about the coaches not being able to get the best out of the players. It's always about the players. So you as a coach have a responsibility to, get them as far, recruit them, and then get them to where you have to get them in order to win football games, because winning football games is really important. Did I mention that? Winning is really important. And every place I've been from my days back at Michigan, it's, you win with defense. You play good defense, you got a chance. You're going to be in every game with a good defense. The offense has to score some points because the points win the game, but defense puts you in the game. And so Coach certainly believes that in all the places we've been and all the great years we had at Florida. It was sexy, and Florida's a place where the quarterback's like a big-time position, and because of Coach Spurrier and Warfel and Tebow. But the reality of that situation is we had great defense in all those championship years. It kind of got shattered a little bit because of the offensive emphasis, which was really good too. But it was about defense. So defense lets you. It's like the ante in the game. You want to win the football game, play good defense. It gets you in the game, and hopefully you got enough complementary football. The offense doing their job, special teams doing their job. Everyone's complimenting, the effort, and you can win games. But you're going to be in the game, then you better play great defense. You're not going to win many games outscoring people. Occasionally that happens. We just got to. It's a 65. We're in Mountain West, so I guess that can happen sometimes. You're trying to outscore people. I watched that Boise game in 2017, Colorado State and Boise. Because we played them, so I studied. That was a remarkable game. That was a high-scoring game. They just had to outscore their team. That was a phenomenal game, and came that close to beating, the great Boise State. So.